Well, I'm filming it anyways. Neighbor's gone. Sleeping in the grocery getter. Whatever you call that.
Marine Mammal Rescue Center. It's located in Powell Drive, Crescent City's beachfront park. Hey.
Hi. This is from.
We passed before we came up here. It had some sort of a net, so maybe stuck in it and just left.
That looks like the fishing area. Fishing vessel. dolphin out there. Rocks might have some tide pools if tide was going out. Looks like it's coming in though. Sylvia's attic. Oh, she had some nice comics, boy. Bumps me out. Weird War Tale. She had like several of them. Several cool horror comics.
Have a potty? You just want one. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, we don't ever have to maintain them. I mean, the weather does the rest for us. All right. Welcome to our tide pool. So there's paper towels on the post over there if you have a place to dry your hands off. Now, so once again, you can touch anything in here, just don't pick anything up and move it. And I'll explain why. The sea stars are the ones that we mainly don't want to mess with. We can touch them, just don't move them. The reason why is the sea stars are actually eating right now. The way they have to eat is really bizarre. I don't know if you guys ever heard this before, but it's weird stuff. So most sea stars are carnivores, they're meat eaters. But normally for any animal to even be a meat eater, it has to have two important things. It's got to have a jaw, and it's got to have teeth to break down the meat, right? Well, their mouth is on the very center on the bottom. It's so small that you can barely see the opening. They can't open their mouth up any wider because there's no jaw. They definitely have no teeth, yet they can eat these big old chunks of meat half the size of their body. So the way they have to go about breaking this food down small enough to fit into their mouth is going to sound a lot grosser than it really looks, but they have to digest their food on the outside of their body first. So I'm going to give you an example. You're going to see some leftover chopped up pieces of fish and squid in here somewhere. They're going to center over the top of that, then they bring their stomach out from where their mouth is, looks like this clear white bubble. They'll wrap it around their food, that way they can bring out the enzymes to break it down and digest it right there, and eat what they want to particle at a time. That whole digestion process, though, can take up to a couple days depending on what they're going for. So the reason why we don't want to pick them up and move them around is we don't want them to have to start all over, but also they have their bellies out below and we don't want to hurt those on accident. So a little different, not very polite at the dinner table, right? But that's how it works. Now here's something a little strange and bizarre about sea stars. They do regenerate. So if they lose a limb or two, they'll grow a brand new one. I bet most of you have heard this before, but it doesn't stop there. There's a lot of sea stars that can survive on less than half their bodies. So say if a sea star were attacked by a seagull, which is one of their biggest predators, and was bitten into two halves, that wouldn't kill most sea stars. Most of them would regrow everything back on both sides and you'd end up with 2 sea stars from that one. Just when you thought that's crazy enough, it gets better. I got to watch a video of a marine biologist that believed that some sea stars may be able to survive on only a third of their body. So he got this specific type of sea star. He cut it into 3 even sections into thirds and separated each section into its own environment with cameras on it to keep track of it. And it took a long time, but eventually all 3 parts of that sea star regrew every body part back, and he ended up with 3 whole sea stars again from that one. See, I think that's the stuff scary movies are made out of, but that's how it works. Now, see if you guys can figure something out. I have some animals in here whose closest relative is a jellyfish. You know what it is? What is it? Good job, sea anemone. So that's all these green things on the rocks. Now, when a sea anemone opens up and they show you these green tentacles, they're waiting for food. This type of sea anemone likes to eat small live fish that scurry around in the tide pools. Now, how many of you have actually touched a sea anemone before? Alright, so there's always 2 things that you'll notice that happens when you touch them. One thing is they'll always close up a little bit. They think maybe they caught that little fish. They're going to check it out. But you'll also notice that those tentacles feel sticky, right? It feels like sticky tape when you touch them. When you feel that, that's not only how they grab a fish in the wild to eat it, but it's also a sting. Every time we touch them, we're being stung like crazy. We don't realize that's happening because our skin's too thick. It doesn't work on us. Now, a fish will go completely paralyzed, so they can't get away while they eat the fish's food. However, there is one place where the sting does work on us really well, and that's your tongue in your mouth. I don't know who figured it out first and how, but I know what happens if you were to lick one, because I've heard the stories and the rumors. But I also have a coworker that'll do anything if you talk him into it. So we convinced him to lick a sea anemone last year. What ended up happening is for the first 10 minutes, his entire mouth and his lips got all tingly. He said it was like when your hand goes to sleep. Then his mouth went numb and stayed that way for the next 2 hours, which got him a little worried, but we got a good laugh out of it. The funny part, though, is for at least a 45-minute span there, I've never in my life seen anybody drool so much. But eventually wore off. We still tease him about it, and he hasn't licked a sea anemone since then. So, true story. Now, do you guys have any questions for me while we're here? Anything you want to know? Before we move on? You guys ready to see some more animals? All right. Paper towels over there if you need one.
You didn't touch very much, Tiff. You didn't touch very much. Did you touch a sea anemone?
Yes.
What are those? Take a picture. How about those? Take a picture of those. Those two. Ugh. Touch the sea starry. Get a picture of both of them at the same time. Oh, we missed it.
Welcome to the aquarium. So the first environment that you see in is the sandy bottom. Now all the sharks that are in here, that's all local and found off the west coast. Most of them are leopard sharks, which are definitely one of the most common out there. These aren't even full size. They don't outgrow their environment, so they won't get any bigger because they're in here. But if you go out in the ocean, these are potentially 7-foot sharks. Most people have no idea how close they come into shore either, but it's really common for a leopard shark to come in as shallow as just knee-deep water. Now I know sharks don't have a good reputation, so don't let that scare you into never going in the ocean again. These are 110% not dangerous or aggressive to humans whatsoever. They actually scatter at the first sight of a human. Now, I have one of these you're going to be able to have a chance to pet in a little bit. It's going to be very different too because sharks do not have scales like a fish. I mean, if you look closely at their skin, they've got this soft velvet look going on there. So sharks don't have scales. Instead, their entire body is literally covered in millions of microscopic teeth. And when I say teeth, I mean identical twits in their mouth, same shape, made of the same material, has enamel, just smaller versions that cover their entire body. It's called dermal denticles. Now there's 3 big things having skin teeth does for them. One of them is it creates a natural armor. The second is it's impossible for things like barnacles to grow on them. And the last thing this does for them is something Olympic swimmers have been using nowadays. Have you guys heard about the shark suit? Okay, if you don't know what it is, it's a skin-tight swimsuit that's textured like after shark skin, specifically the mako shark. And what this does is it gives them very little friction or resistance from the water. So they can swim much faster using less energy. Now it's so effective that starting next year, 2010, they're going to ban the shark suit from the Olympics altogether because it's creating an unfair advantage. Once they started wearing this suit, they started breaking all these world records, no problem. Also, that last guy that beat Michael Phelps, he was in a shark suit. The reason why they textured this after the mako shark is makos are the fastest. They can cruise at speeds of 50 miles an hour, but they can do quick bursts of up to 70, just screaming fast for anything. Now there's one more shark that I want to try to show you guys. It's been out a little bit today. See if he's still there. Is there a little brown one right in front of you guys? Oh, of course it moved. We have these sharks in here that are nocturnal. They usually never show up during the day. They're little brown sharks that rest on the bottom. You guys see anything? Alright, well, looks like we're not going to spot them anyway. I'll at least tell you about them. We have swell sharks in here that are nocturnal. They can do something so bizarre that they're permanently in Ripley's, believe it or not. They usually hide in the rock caves and stuff, so I'll at least explain what they can do. When a swell shark gets scared, they start sucking up so much water that they swell up to about twice their size, which is why they get their name. The purpose for that is to wedge themselves in the rocks and caves so predators can't pull them out. But first chance they get, they'll try to scare their away by spitting that water back out so fast that they make a sound, which of all the noises in the world sounds exactly like a barking dog. So they bark at everything and get them to go away, which is kind of cool. Alright, what's that?
What's that bigger one that doesn't have it?
Oh, we've got that big gray one in there. It's the biggest shark that we have. It's called a cow shark. We just got it from the wild a couple months ago. There is another name for them other than cow shark. They're also known as a 7-gill because most sharks only have 5 gill slits. Those ones have 7. Now those get up to 10 foot in length. A cow shark is known to be a potential biter. We have divers that come in here on a regular basis to do some cleaning, so that's the only shark he's really got to pay attention to. Fortunately, it's shown absolutely no interest or aggression towards the diver whatsoever, but when he's in there, he has to be very aware of where the shark is at all times when he's cleaning. And if he's not capable of that, then he has to bring in a buddy with him to keep eyes on that at all times. All right, I got to introduce you guys to my babies down here. So we have 3 animals in here, 2 seals and 1 sea lion. Now, I'm not sure if they're in the water right now, and if they're not, then that's okay, because we're going to be seeing them up on land at the end of the tour anyway. But there's 2 harbor seals and 1 sea lion. The sea lion's name is Cora. She's brand new to the facility. She's only a year old, so that's our new baby. She's been here for about 3 weeks. That's Scully. That's our male harbor seal. Scully's here from Vallejo, which is 6 Flags. We have the task of training him over the next couple of years, and then he's going to go back and potentially do a show over there. The reason why we're tackling the training is he can't see very well. He's only got about 5% of his vision. He can only see shadows and movement in front of his face, and that's it. But he's extremely intelligent, so he's able to learn a lot of this stuff without being able to see. And I'll show you some of that at the end of the tour. Then the other seal is going to be Marina. Marina is a rescued animal from the wild. She's very old. They normally only live 15 to 20 years out there. Well, she was estimated to be 20 years old when she was rescued. And they can tell by how worn their teeth are. Well, she was rescued 11 years ago. So she's over 30. That's equivalent to a human, equal to or over 100. Now you're going to notice here that the water is really murky. We pump in every drop of water from the ocean. The aquarium, we constantly have to filter for visibility through sand and gravel so you can see something. But we wanted these guys to have the most natural habitat possible. So instead of filtering this pool 24/7, we still have to keep it clean. So twice a week, we drain it completely dry. We have to jump in there and scrub the whole thing down and clean it ourselves by hand. And then pump 117,000 gallons of fresh ocean water back in it. It takes about 6 hours. So what you see here is what it looks like if you were to go snorkeling or scuba diving as we speak. It's always very cloudy. So I don't want to tell you too much about these guys because we're going to see them much better at the end of the tour up on land, and I'll be showing you a couple cute things they can do. So go ahead and move on. These are rockfish, many different types. Now if you don't know a whole lot about rockfish, they can be really boring. They sit in the same spot practically all day and stare at you. But they do have some secrets. First off, they get their name because they don't move much. Marine biologists wanted to find out exactly how much they will move in a day. So they did a little study on them. And it turns out the average movement for most rockfish, no joke, was 7 feet a day. And most of that was getting food and running from predators. Sounds a lot like my brother, actually. Now, here's what's ironic. They, that's like couch potato syndrome for us, right? Sitting in the same spot all day, only moving for food. That's supposedly very unhealthy. These things live 60 to 80 years on average doing this. They've found rockfish that have made it to like almost 120 years old. Now the purpose for acting like a rock is to hide from their predators. So that's why they're sitting really still within the rocks. This is way more effective in the wild because these things live up to 2,000 feet deep. There's no light down there. Acting like a rock in pitch black darkness is a good little tactic to go unnoticed to your predators.
Yeah.
Now you can't have a proper saltwater aquarium without having stingrays, right? So I have stingrays for you, and I have a fish that any fisherman appreciates seeing, which would be sturgeon. They're all in the last environment. You guys can cruise on down. I'll tell you about them when we get down there.
I will beat you. I will beat you when I stare. Oh, I believe. Silly fish, huh? Oh, no. I know. That sure is.
Last environment here, we've got some pretty cool animals. The rays that you're going to see, these are California bat rays. They get pretty big. They'll grow up to a 6-foot wingspan and weigh over 200 pounds. That's enough to be one of the largest out there. Now they normally have stingers too, called barbs. And we have our divers that come in and do some cleaning on a regular basis. We really don't want to see them getting stung on accident, so we take an extra safety precaution and we clip the stingers off. Now I want to show you where out on their bodies we've clipped the stingers, because a lot of us get different impressions on where the stinger's at altogether. It's not on the tip of the tail. It's not the tail itself. That's just cartilage and skin. So if you look at a ray in there, look at the very beginning of the bat ray's tail. You're going to see a little fin sticking up. That looks like a half circle. Right behind that fin, on top of the tail still, there's a really vague stub or a rough spot. That's where the stinger was clipped. Now if it was still there, you just imagine like a 2-inch spike coming out of that location, and that would be the stinger, which is known as a barb. Now they sting just like how a bee stings. They're going to lodge this barb into their prey, this is like a spike, and then they detach it from their bodies and they take off. Now they don't sting unless they absolutely think it's necessary, because once they use that stinger, it's gone until they can regrow a new one. But regrowing one is going to take up to 2 years. So it's not something they can do on a regular basis. Now the most common way we get stung, and this seriously happens every day somewhere in the world, is you're out there playing around on the beach and you go out in the shallow waters playing around and you step on one and get stung in your foot. Happens every day somewhere in the world. So I'm going to give you guys some really good advice to prevent from not getting stung by one this way. Don't go in the water. I'm just kidding. Now, even if you go out there, the reason why they're stinging is you're standing on it. They come up and they look around for clams. That's one of the things to eat. Their skeleton is just cartilage. It's not solid bone to hold up your body weight. So if you step on one, they're literally being squished under your weight, and they can't get away because you're standing on them. They assume that you're a predator attacking them, so they sting you to get you off of them. So the best advice I can give you, lifeguards will tell you the same, is when you go out and play around on a sandy beach in the water, very carefully drag and shuffle your feet around. So I mean, that way if you come across one, there's no chance of them sliding into your foot for you to step on them and hurt. Worst case scenario, you're going to give them a little bump with your foot, and that's nowhere near enough to get them to want to use that stinger on you. It's going to be a lot more dramatic for that than that for them to use a stinger. If you do get stung, a couple pieces of advice for you. Never pull that stinger on your own because it rips out, it anchors in there. Always at the hospital or lifeguard do it. I always recommend bringing vinegar to the beach with you. That way if you're stung by a ray or a jellyfish, you pour the vinegar on that site, it'll help neutralize a lot of that pain for you. There is another alternative, but you're not going to like it. Yeah, you're nothing like human urine, right? So you can pee on it. Also, I guess I just found out too, vodka works really good. I mean, don't drink it, that'll help too, but if you just pour it on the site that you were stung, it's supposed to help neutralize a lot of that. I gotta show you guys the sturgeon real quick before we go. That's those long black fish in there that looks like airplane windows down their sides, whiskers under their nose. These are called white sturgeon. Now the biggest one that we have is just over 5.5 foot in length. I don't know where she went. And she's just over, just over 5.5 foot in length, but get this, yeah, that's her over there. They can live to 100 years or more, right? Well, she's a baby, she's only 7 years old. They grow an average of a foot a year, which is insane. So I went and dug around in some records because I wanted to find out like how big some of these really did get. All I could find was the biggest for North America, and it was the same species that we have in here, found in the Columbia River, border of Oregon and Washington. So the 25-foot fish, which would touch corner to corner, the widest part of the room, weighing 1,800 pounds. That's a monster fish. There's 24 species worldwide, though. Some of them can actually get bigger than that. Now, you guys got any questions before we move on? No? You got one?